We'd like to start out by thanking our valuable sponsors. Sense of Satisfaction by Cricket is the place for all your fragrance needs. Plus, she's got products to heal what ails your skin and your hair. Shop at scentsbycricket.com. Special thanks to our valued sponsor, John Travis, a financial coach and certified Kingdom advisor with Richard Young Associates, a registered investment advisor. Thanks goes to Anna Patterson, my sister in the Lord who faithfully gives to this ministry every month. And to our newest sponsor, LaToya Gerard of Preach the Word Worldwide Network. She is a valued sponsor and a major encourager regarding this ministry. We need and would love to have you as a sponsor. Absolutely no gift is too small. Please note the info regarding giving throughout and at the end of the show, and help us spread these testimonies around the world. Please note that the views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily the viewpoints of our sponsors. It's time to hear the story, make the connection, learn the lesson, and gain the wisdom. Are you ready? Let's get charged and be changed. The SisterSpeak+BrotherBreak show. Conversations on grace, healing, and deliverance. This is Marcy Bush. Come on, let's journey together.
Exactly.
And so in the moment, it probably feels like the worst thing.
Right.
But it's actually the best thing.
Right.
To set you up for a different situation.
Yes. Because at that time, the teachers at the school, they did call it DSS.
Okay.
DSS was in the office with us.
Wow.
With me and the principal, the teacher. We're both two teachers and DSS.
Okay.
And so they asked me at that time, what was I going to do? But they also told me what was going to happen if I didn't do something. And that's what I said. That's when I said, oh, most definitely, this has to stop. I'm going to stop this. And so that very next time, that next weekend, when he did start again, and he was drinking, he had to go. And he didn't leave he didn't leave voluntarily.
Okay.
He had to be escorted.
Okay. And it was necessary.
Yes.
You know, I'm sitting here thinking too how so often we say, what goes on in this house stays in this house.
Yes.
Children are,
Yes.
they're fussed at, they're
Yes.
spanked, they're whatever
Yes.
for saying what, but the child they're telling the truth.
They're telling the truth.
And
yes.
sometimes the adults are afraid to speak the truth.
Right. Right.
When the kid hasn't learned all about lying and covering up
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
And they speak the truth, and that there's freedom in that truth.
Yes.
Like I said, it'll feel like the worst thing,
Yes.
but there's freedom in that
Yes.
truth.
Yes.
And sometimes they're the ones with more courage than the adults.
Exactly.
Even though they're just speaking what's on their hearts. It's just
Exactly.
tumbling out their lips.
Exactly.
But you think about when you have a 4-year-old and they're out of the home, they're somewhere else.
Right.
But that's what's on their minds.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and we don't give them enough, and I always end up trying to speak for the children. We don't give them, I guess, enough credence. We don't think about how it impacts those little ones. We always think they ain't paying no attention.
Exactly.
Oh, yes, they are.
Yes.
And they're thinking about it when they're away.
Exactly.
And it begins to help them form decision making that isn't
Yes.
always good.
Right.
Even at that age.
Exactly. Exactly.
Even at that age.
And looking back on it now, Marcy, Sean was 4. So actually, she saved my life.
Pat, I was just about to say that. When you said she was 4, that's what I was thinking. A 4-year-old saved your life.
A 4-year-old, because anything could have happened in any of those events, you know. So she saved my life to a point to where I can look back now, and this is the first time I'm even saying this myself. She saved my life.
Yes.
And
yes.
she was 4. She was going to school doing her normal school.
Yes.
And I guess whatever came up, whatever thought it was. And she was an honor roll student since she was 2. I say honor roll because that's how smart she was. It still is. So she knew exactly what she was talking about.
Yes.
And she didn't say a couple of words. She was saying full sentences when she was 3. So
saved your life.
Saved my life. So, to this day.
Yes.
Saved my life.
Yes. Because
if she hadn't, who's to say what could have happened that next time?
Right. Because it's not like, okay, I'm holding a gun to your head. When there's an altercation, one wrong push.
Yeah.
One wrong. All you gotta do hit your head in the wrong place.
Oh yeah.
You know, could be
bruises.
paralyzed. Could be and anything could happen.
Right.
Anything.
Right. And I thank God, even with him drinking the way he was in the state that he was in, you know, he never abused her.
Yes.
He never abused her.
Yes.
And, you know, he never abused her. It was just me. It was just me. And she was crazy about it, and she still is. She was crazy about her daddy.
Yes.
She'll follow him anywhere, go anywhere with him. So it wasn't about her, it was just me.
And I think a lot of times the kids, they see and they know the difference in right and wrong, but they also have this instinct about the core of a person and how good a person is. And so that's why they can love. They can see the wrong that somebody does and still love them wholeheartedly because they see the essence of that person. They sense the spirit of that person.
Right. Exactly.
And sometimes it is, and he told us in his story too that it was part of his love for her and her love for him that helped pull him to where he needed to be.
Yes.
Now he told us his conversion experience, but also even in the midst of that conversion experience, she was, you know, spiritually present.
Yes. He told me, it was years ago. I think it was before we had gotten back together because we had stayed separated. She was 4 when he left, and she was she was 7 when he came back. Okay. Almost getting returned 7, so it was almost 3 years. And he had told me that one night he was dreaming, and he was in a courtroom, and he was sitting at the table, and whatever the case was, I guess whatever it had to do with him. But anyway, he said he stood up. The judge asked everybody to stand up, told him to stand up, and he felt Shauna pulling on his pants leg. Now that was in a dream. Just nudging on his pants leg in the dream. And for whatever reason, I guess telling him to stop or knew he had to stop, whatever. But that was his dream, and that was when we were separated.
Yes. So when y'all were separated, because you said during that time, because he was not there, you could grow.
Oh yes.
You felt yourself growing. You felt the word taking root.
Yes.
You knew that was going on.
Yes.
And I think from what he told us, y'all had gone to see, and I don't know if he was Pastor Presley or Bishop Presley at that time.
He was Pastor Presley.
Okay. And y'all had gone to see him to see how to raise Deshauna separately. And can you tell us what you remember about that situation?
What I remember about that situation at that time, like I said, it was during the time we were separated, and he was living up in North Augusta on Highway 25. I was at our house where we are now in Aiken, and he had wanted to start coming to the church where I was going because he saw that my stand, S-T-A-N-D, that I had was actually taking root. Because the crying and the begging, when we're going to get back together, when we're going to get back together. For the whole almost 3 years, I kept saying, when God showed me a sign.
Okay.
He was like, what? I said, when God showed me a sign. And I hadn't seen a sign yet. And now during this time, I had went and gotten me a lawyer. Okay. A retained lawyer. And I had filed for a divorce. Okay. Because at that time, wasn't no coming back. Okay. But, you know, he had visitation rights and all that, you know. And one night I was keeping the child for him because she loved him and he loved her, and it wasn't about them. So he wanted to start coming to the church to see what I was getting, you know, what kind of teaching I was getting, what was keeping. I said, well, why you want to come to the church where I go? Go to your own church. He's like, no, I just want to, come and sit in the service and meet your pastor. I said, well, okay. So I went up 25 and I got him. And I brought him to the church. And me and him, we want to talk to Bishop to see how, he's pastor at the time, to see how could we raise Deshauna separate but together. That was our intent the whole time going in that first meeting. So we went in the office. Of course, he was smelling like alcohol. When we went in the office, but Bishop didn't acknowledge it, and neither did I. So we sat down, and Bishop said, okay, so why are y'all here? And he said, well, Pastor Presley, we came to meet with you so we can learn how to raise Deshauna, because we separated, but we want to learn how to raise her together, but separate. I said, yeah, Pastor. That's what he said. He said, that's what he said. I said, yeah, that's what he said. I said, so. He said, so you don't agree? And I don't remember word for word how Pastor put it, but how Bishop put it. I said, yeah, he said, we need to learn how to raise her together but separate. And so he was telling us a different version of what the father's role is and what the mom's role is. And so when we got finished with the meeting, I think it must have lasted about 30 minutes, maybe 45, I don't remember. We left out of his office. And I asked him, was he ready to go home? Because we done with the meeting. I'm ready to take you on home. But I think it was a weekday. It wasn't a Sunday. And he said, well, can we talk? I said, talk about what? Bishop just told us. Pastor just told us how to do this. He said, well, can I come back to church with you on Sunday? I said, yeah, you can come. He said, well, you going to come pick me up? I'm like, no. You get there the best way you can. But I went on, I picked him up. And he started coming to the church regular on Sundays. And then he started wanting to come on Tuesday night Bible study night. And now at this time, that's all we were supposed to be doing. Just learning how to raise Deshauna together, but separate. This must have went on, it maybe went on about a year. Well, maybe I say a year. I said 7 to 8 months. And then, now she was getting ready to turn 5. Yeah, she was getting ready to turn 5. So, no, I'm sorry, she was getting ready to turn 8, because we had been separated by 3 years. She was getting ready to turn, she was getting ready to turn 7. And so he said, well, is she, talking about Deshauna, is she going to be okay, with us if we go ahead and get divorced? I said, well, she don't know the difference, she's a child. I'm good with it, because we had been to court twice. We had one more trip to go to the courthouse. Wow. From what my lawyer told me. And our divorce would have been final. It was 3 sessions. And Marcy, I know it was God, 'cause I know it wasn't me. But before we went back for that 3rd trip, I told my lawyer, I called him and told him just put a hold on that last session. He said, well, Ms. Brightharp, what you mean put a hold? I said, well, let's wait before we finalize this. He said, well, why you want to wait? You paid me over $1,000. Wow. I said, well, I don't know. God working on me with something, and my decision to divorce him for good this last trip, I want to make sure I'm doing the right thing, making the right decision. He said, well, you can't get none of your money back. I said, that's fine, I know. I know business. I retained you, and now I done changed my mind. And so I said, he said, well, so what you want me to do with this court date? I said, we're going to cancel that one, and I'll get with you and let you know when And when I got back with him about a month later after that, I told him I'd just be legally separated instead of divorced. He said, well, you plan on going back to him? I said, no. But my heart was changing. I didn't realize that. Right. I just knew I wasn't ready for it to be final. Yeah. And it was about 9 months, about 9 months total. And then we got back together. Between 9 months and a year, we got back together. And then 9 or 10 months later, I had Quantez.
After you got back together?
After we got back together.
Now, did he tell you?
Wait a minute now. You know, because I wasn't sleeping around. And when no other men involved,
Right.
you know, because by this time, Marcia, to be honest, I was fed up with all men. I'm thinking all y'all got something going on. So, but
And the thing is, because you had become so rooted in God too, and you said even at the beginning, when you and Maurice got married, you got married because you were like, I want to do this thing right.
yeah,
I want to make this right. So, you said, and I'm just going to back it up a little bit. So you said you didn't even know why.
right.
You said hold off. What did it feel like that day when you got ready to pick up that phone to call the lawyer to say hold up? Were you like, Pat, what in the world are you doing?
I really was just like that. I'm like, why am I calling this lawyer, telling him to hold up, not to go? We're not going back to court right now on this last trip to make this divorce proceedings final. And I'm like, why am I? I said, I can't get no money back. I said, oh God, wait a minute.
And come to find out what had happened.
My feelings was changing towards Maurice. And I was falling back because I hadn't felt out of love. I loved him. I loved him because he was Deshauna's dad. And I respected him because his position, he was Deshauna's dad. But as far as in love with him, as a husband and wife supposed to be, all that was gone. During all that time. You know, that time away and everything that had went on with us. All that was gone.
Because you saw what freedom felt like.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not being in that constant stress.
Exactly.
But God had other plans.
But God had other plans. And I did not know that was the plan that he had was for us. But he changed my heart toward Maurice. And said, well, I didn't know he was saying it because I didn't understand the Holy Spirit and what he does and how he speaks to you. We always say something told me. Something told me. Now I know what the something is. But, but the something told me not to divorce him. And let's just see where it goes and see if y'all can work it out. And I'm looking at the phone in my hand. I'm like, but I don't want to work it out. But then my heart was saying, you know, all the excuses. He's your daughter's dad. You know, he is a good man. He just got this problem. I said, okay, God, I'm gonna go ahead and make this call and tell his lawyer to hold off, and I'm gonna see where this goes.
Because by this time, he had his conversion experience, correct?
He had.
And had you seen the difference in him, even when you're going to pick him up to take him to church and stuff like that? Had you begun to see the difference in him?
I did. I guess I ain't no guess. I saw the difference in him when he had his the experience. He stayed in his grandma's house where the Holy Spirit woke him up and told him to throw all the beer out the house, get rid of everything, clean the house up. And so for those couple of months that I was picking him up, bringing him to church, I saw the difference. But Marcia, I was fighting the difference. I was fighting it because it's like, that ain't what I want to see. Because my mind was made up. So my mind was telling me one thing, but my heart was telling me something else.
Right. Do you think fear played a factor?
Oh, yes. I was scared too. To be honest, I really was. Because I was like, what if he start drinking again? What if the fights start again? You know, what if this? You know, what if that?
Right.
Do I want to go back to that? No, because I had been free from that for a couple of years while he was gone.
Right.
And that freedom, that peace, and the teaching, and coming to church, and going to work in peace, all that was so good.
Yeah.
I ain't had to worry about
Right.
all that in my ear.
Right.
And my daughter seeing this. Cause my oldest daughter, she was old enough, she had already moved out.
Okay.
On her own. So it was just me and Deshauna.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I was scared to make that move and say, yeah, well, let's try again. I was scared because I didn't trust nobody. And I put this big old wall up. It was me against all the men.
Okay.
My dad. I mean, you know, I love my dad, but I saw this all my life. my other husband, my first husband, he had passed away already, but I saw that with him. And then now my husband I have now, I saw that with him. So I had it with men.
Right.
I mean, I can love y'all from a distance. I love you because God said love everybody, but I don't like none of y'all. I ain't like none of them. You know, I tolerate them, but I ain't like it. But yeah, so it took a lot for me to.
So what was that conversation like? Maurice, I'm gonna let you come back.
Wow. I think we went out to eat dinner one evening.
Oh, so y'all was dating again?
Yeah. Something we hadn't done since we hadn't met each other. I mean, we was going out to eat and doing all that, but it felt like an actual date because it felt like the actual first time me going on a date with her.
Because you were really coming to know the real Maurice.
Right. So it's like dating a new man, which he wasn't. He was becoming a new man. So I wanted to see what this was all about. I mean, I wanted a meal too, a good meal. But I'm saying, I want to see, like, okay, I see you at church and you say this, and you say this in the car on the way home. Let's see how it is on this first date. When we out, just me and you. And it was actually nice. It felt like a real. We had the same last name, so my way. But I'm just saying, I'm saying, this a new man sitting across the table in front of me.
Yes.
And is this the person that I'm willing to let my heart be open to come back? So we did that for about a month, maybe 2, maybe 3. Then I finally told him, okay, come back home, let's try this again. And that was then, and this is now. Quantez wasn't born yet, so like I said, he had came back home, and after he had been home about 9 months, 10 months, I was pregnant. And we both went to my doctor in Augusta, and she gave me the test, and she said, "Miss Brightharp, you're pregnant." I'm like, "What?"
And this was shortly after y'all got back together. It was
shortly after we got back together. Yeah, shortly. I'm like, and Maurice was sitting out in the waiting room. I said, "Are you sure?" She said, "Yes, ma'am, I'm sure. You're pregnant." I said, "God, you know what? You so funny. You so funny." But that was putting the icing on the cake, putting the seal on. Yeah. Putting the seal on being back together.
Yes. And so 9 months after y'all got back together, Quantez was born.
Right.
Now, did you know before he was born that had they let you know that there were issues with the baby?
When I was in my 8th month, going into my 8th month, they gave me a sonogram. I had a couple, but this last particular sonogram that they had done on me, they saw a lot of fluid build up in my sac, in my stomach, and they said that they may have to induce me and give me a C-section and take the baby early because they didn't want him to drown.
Okay. See, I didn't even know it was possible.
I didn't either. I'm like, you need to do what? Because it's 8 months. I know I had 1 more month to go.
Right.
And so the fluid that they drained out my stomach, they gave me a test. They put a needle in, they drained some of the fluid out, and they said it would have to send off, have to test it. Well, the test results came back in about 2 weeks, and they said it showed abnormal cells in it. And so they ran the test and all that, and they said he could have a deficiency. And all this going through my head, I'm thinking, okay, Maurice just got back home. I'm pregnant. My son. Right. And we knew it was a boy because we had sonogram in about 3 months earlier. I said, deficiency. But I said, what type of deficiency? And so they didn't know what type of name to give it yet.
Okay.
And I said, okay, Lord, what's going on? And so my doctor said, well, we're going to have to take him early because we don't want nothing to happen to you or the baby. And so they did. So I had him at 8 months.
Okay.
And the test that came back showed that he had a rare syndrome.
Okay.
And of course, he was in the NIC unit. He was in ICU and the baby, in the NIC unit. And they had all kind of needles. Well, they told me what they was going to do before they did it. But they had all kind of needles in his head, and because he was premature. And because he came out crying, I had a C-section. He came out crying, so I'm thinking, he healthy, because I was in, awake when he was born, and Maurice was in the delivery room with me. But like I said, the test results they say that came back abnormal, said it was a rare syndrome. And I said, what, like Down syndrome? And they said, no, it's not Down syndrome. So the scientists or whoever who had, I guess, made a name for it, when he was born, there was only 5 people in the whole United States that had this rare syndrome.
Really?
And it was called, I think it's named after both of the scientists, Pallister-Killian syndrome.
Okay.
And so I was a bit overwhelmed at this time.
I can't.
Because he in the NIC unit. They tell me about the syndrome, and I had went down to the NIC unit to visit, and they had him in the incubator. And so by this time I was about to lose it. And Maurice told the doctors, give her a minute. Y'all, let me take her back to her room. And he was trying to calm me down because it's like, what's wrong with my son? What's wrong with my son? What is this? What is this? What is this? What are you talking about? He said, honey, they said it's a rare syndrome, and we just have to go with what the doctor's telling us to do. And so we went through genealogical doctors, all kind of specialists, until they told me what, it sat me down and explained to me exactly what it does. But they said they only had 5 cases to compare it to. And the oldest person was 31, I think, or 32.
Really?
All the others was younger than that.
Wow.
I said, wow. What am I gonna do with a baby? I said, okay, God. I know you're with me, but you gotta help me with this. So they gave me the different stages. At 3 months, if he ain't doing this, then he's supposed to be doing this at 3 months. He's supposed to be doing this at 5 months, on an average, with the average.
Right.
And if he's not doing this, at 3 months or 5.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you've been blessed by today's show, feel free to let us know. And if you'd like to sow into this ministry, become a sponsor, or contact us, you can reach us at 803-221-0169. Or you can email us at thessbbshow@gmail.com. Let's continue this journey together.